Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Real Women in Tech podcast. And today we have a very interesting guest, Jennifer Petoff. Jennifer is a program management director. She's working in SRE space in Google for the last 18 years. She also visited 63 countries, co-edited the best-selling site reliability engineering book, and she has a very interesting, she's obsessed with photographing doors. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you. And to start the episode, can you tell us a little bit about what do you do at Google and how would you explain what you do to somebody who is never worked in tech?
No, happy to talk about that. It can be hard to simplify sometimes, or kind of get out of the weeds and kind of bring it up a level. But I did have a chance to think about how I would frame this. And so my job, like, what do I do? So I support the teams at Google that keep our products up and running, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, if you think about it, like when you do a Google search or you open a YouTube video, like what's the first thing you do if it doesn't actually load? You check your internet connection. At least that's what I do. Google has a reputation for having highly reliable products, and that's what site reliability engineering and SRE is actually all about.
Nice. It seems like a very interesting and very responsible job. Can you tell us a little bit how your usual workday usually looks?
Sure. No, happy to talk about that as well. And I think in tech, we rely a lot on technology, and this may not sound super glamorous, but as a program management director, my days really consist of a lot of email, a lot of documents, a lot of meetings. My job is basically spending a lot of time influencing people to do the things we need to do in service of a shared goal, like to drive our various projects forward. And, things like email, docs, and meetings, like those are the tools that I have at my disposal. And if you want to just take a quick example, like we're currently working on the second edition of the Google SRE book. And, none of the people working on that project actually report to me. And we're talking like dozens of subject matter experts that we have contributing to the project. And my job is basically to organize the project, make it as easy as possible for them to pour that hard-won knowledge, pour that expertise into the book. And, I'm also responsible for making sure everyone feels an appropriate level of urgency. Like, we don't want to stress people out, but getting that sense of urgency can be difficult for a project like this because we basically need people to write the content now, but the book's not going to be published and you won't have this like tangible thing you can hold in your hand for more than a year. So, part of my job is to make sure people don't procrastinate, which is something that can happen a lot of times if something's important but not urgent.
Awesome. Jennifer, what a fantastic career. And I'm very curious about this. But 18 years ago, probably even longer, when you started your career journey, how did SRE come about and why SRE?
No, I'd happy to do that. So I actually started my career as a chemist. Like I have a PhD in chemistry, so I've done everything from very exciting things like, chemicals that would start on fire if you expose them to air, to things that are very, very boring, like making paint and watching paint dry. So like started my career in a very different space. And how I got from the chemistry to SRE, it really was a very long and winding path is how I describe it. Like it's something I never would have anticipated when I started my career. When I was a grad student pursuing this PhD in chemistry, like I was basically aware of exactly two career opportunities that would be available to me. I could go into academia and become a professor, or I could go into the chemical industry and do research in industry. And I ended up starting out on this really traditional path by going into research in the chemical industry. And it was really only after I had joined a company and took a job in industry that this whole new world of opportunities just opened up before my eyes. For example, chemical companies, just like tech companies, they're more than just research. You've got marketing, finance, HR, sales, like all kinds of different functions. And I actually evolved into HR and more specifically into university relations. And that might seem weird. That might seem like a bit of a left turn there. But the reality was, like, I love to travel, and like this career path enabled me to do that more than like working in the lab. And I did this by going out to universities to recruit PhD students. And at first I did this on a a volunteer basis. And I actually loved it so much that I found myself volunteering more and more for various campus visits. And I eventually built up like so much experience in this area, like doing it as a side hustle, so to speak, that my company ended up offering me a full-time job leading our university relations efforts. And, from here, like Google found me on LinkedIn, really interested in my science background. I think it could be perceived as a signal that I'm data driven. And if you combine that with the university experience, it was a good combination, apparently. And Google is a company I never imagined I'd have a chance to work for until they actually reached out to me. Like, what does Google want with a chemist? But frankly, I was curious. So when the call came, I took it. And one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, I was embarking on what turned into an 18-year career in the tech industry. And of course, like pursuing that love of travel, pursuing that love of new experiences, like that's really what took me from point A, which was at Google, like the university programs team, to point Z, I'll call it. I consider myself the reliable program manager. So I combine my expertise in getting people to do things like running programs with the subject matter expertise that I've built up over more than a decade working in SRE. And I don't think we have time to stop at every stop along the way and deep dive on the career journey at that level. But I'll just give you one quick story. I had the opportunity to move to Ireland for a year to work on the AdWords global customer services team at Google. And that 1 year stint turned into 12 years in Ireland. And during that time, I met Niall Murphy, and he's the one whose actually idea it was to write the SRE book. He had the expert knowledge, but what he didn't have was someone who knows how to get things done, how to make something real. And so he convinced me to join the SRE team at Google and work with him to make the book real. And I have to say, like, the SRE book is by far the coolest project that I've had the opportunity to work on at Google. And I think it really catapulted me forward as this industry advocate and public speaker, which has been a really
Well, I can attest to how valuable that book is. I run an SRE organization as part of my portfolio, and there are a number of times where we quote the book or we go back to and say, "What does the book say?" I'm very happy that you're considering a second round and a second edition for it, because it's a conversation we were having very recently about in the world of AI and in the world of so much automation that did not exist at the time of when the book was written and when Google actually came up with the concept of SREs. What does the new frontier for this field, for this job, look like? So very excited, and we look forward to it. And I can tell you that there are lots and lots of SREs who swear by it like a Bible.
Thank you so much for that. And I think like, you called it out. Like so much has changed in the last 10 years that like now it's time. You've got AI, you've got platform engineering, you've just got we have a wide range of tools in our toolkit that we didn't have before. Yeah, I think it's excited to be working on it again. Yeah, you'll see the results in about a year.
Well, I don't know about you, Igor, but I think I'm finally processing what Jennifer means when she says work to live and not live to work. Because if you work on things that are so exciting and you're so passionate about, then life definitely becomes glorious. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about how do you live that value every single day? How does it show up for you in your day-to-day operations, in how you make decisions? Let's say tomorrow another opportunity knocks the door. How would that work to live and not live to work show up for you?
Yes, I think like stated simply, like I make my career decisions based on how they advance my life goals instead of living in service to work, sacrificing my life to work. And I always say like I'd much rather make a lateral move that allows me to travel more or like work on something interesting than like to ruthlessly climb the corporate ladder. And that's like I said, that's it. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Like we can take it in a variety of different directions. I could talk about this all day, but where would you like me to take it?
To yourself. I mean, we could take some example where you probably had a critical decision to make and where this value showed up for you and said, well, this is an easy decision. Oftentimes we make these decisions just out of our instinct and our gut, but to the world, it may seem like that was very erratic. So yeah, maybe some examples.
Yeah, No, happy to do that. So I think like I was thinking about this for a presentation that I did at work a year or two ago. With like we were doing a women in tech summit where the theme was basically intentionality, and I'm like, how do I like kind of tie into this? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that like living and working with intention is the key to like everything that I've fostered like in my career to date. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, like if you look at the definition of intentionality, like that's what I do. It's a state of being deliberate about what you choose to do and what you choose not to do as you strive for the outcome that you desire. And the outcome that I always desire is what I call my guiding star. And my guiding star in life is to travel as much as possible and live in different places. And yeah, I basically thrive on new experiences. So like when I am faced with a life choice or a career choice or just an opportunity comes up, I do a litmus test, like bringing it back to chemistry, doing a litmus test. Is this opportunity likely to bring me closer or further away from that guiding star? So for example, my husband and I always wanted to live abroad. That really is in service of that guiding star. And I did try to make it happen in the chemical industry, but like it just didn't work out. And when Google came calling, like I asked myself, am I more likely to land that international assignments working at Google, working in tech versus where I was currently? And the analysis that I did at that time said, yes, I think you're more likely to make it happen at Google than in the chemical industry. And of course, like there's no guarantees in life. You make decisions based on the best information that you have at the time. But in this case, like I was spot on. I judged correctly. And actually 3 years later was when I had that opportunity to move from San Francisco to Ireland, which was super exciting. So that's kind of how I approach it. And you just have that one North Star that I try to follow.
It's really interesting. And what I think is amazing and is that I think many of us have this desire or wish to travel a lot and to live in cool places. And at least many people in my environment and in my close circle actually would love to live that life. But not many of us have enough courage to make those decisions and to switch from our normal life, normal career path to something else. And you made a bold decision to switch from chemistry into tech, and you were already a successful and established professional and expert in chemical industry when you made this decision. Can you tell me a little bit about what was it like to make this decision? What fears you faced when making that decision, and how you maybe coached yourself into pivoting into a completely new industry?
Yeah, I think like in some ways, like I was confident in what I wanted in life, and that analysis that I talked about, just kind of adding up the probabilities of getting what I wanted in the chemical industry versus tech, like that was really at the foundation. But like I have found over the years, like it is easy to be nervous about these things. It is easy to like question like whether it's the right thing to do to make the safe choice, I guess. And I like to think about it like over my career, like I've pivoted a bunch of times actually. Like so from chemistry into to HR into like ads, like basically I was supporting projects related to our ad serving business and SRE. So quite a few different things that I've done along the way. And one thing that was helpful was just keeping one foot in the comfort zone while stepping one foot out of the comfort zone. So, for example, I moved from the chemical industry into tech, but I did that in a domain that I was already expert in. And in this case, university programs. So the domain really stayed the same, which was in my comfort zone, but the industry was different. And I have to say, like the chemical industry and the tech industry, they are widely different, especially like wildly different, especially in terms of the pace at which they operate. And I think so that was the move. Like, so just I'm going to go in, I'm going to try out what this crazy tech world is about. And then once I did get comfortable with the industry, I was able to branch out into new areas because at that point I was comfortable with Google and I knew how to kind of figure things out. But the domain was the next step out of my comfort zone. And the nice thing about this particular approach is that if I didn't like it, if it didn't work out for whatever reason, like I could always roll it back if we want to use some SRE terminology. If this choice was a bad one, if I sort of made a bad release decision here, I could roll it back. So for example, when I moved from chemistry research into university relations, like I definitely could have like rolled it back from HR into research within the company that I was in. And same thing like at Google, if I didn't like tech, if it was just too much of a leap, like I could have rolled back into another university relations role or even a research role in the chemical industry. Like having optionality, I think helps. Like nothing is irreversible, especially if you do this like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the comfort zone strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice strategy. Is it something common or is it something you invented yourself, the strategy 1 foot in, 1 foot out?
I mean, like a lot of the things that I do, I just like intuit. Like, so this was not something I read about, but there is a book called like the Pivot Method, I think it's called. I'll have to look it up, but like I think there's been more work done in this space um to kind of formalize this particular approach. But yeah, it was something that just was sort of like intuitive to me. I like to take calculated risks. And to me, like just if I were to like change the company and change the job like completely all at once, like that would be too much and would really stress me out. So taking that sort of calculated risk in this way just it gives you a lot of optionality, as I was saying.
I just wanted to quickly double click on that process of making a decision and the methodology you use because I think it's very interesting to explore how you think and how you make decisions because you're mm, on one side you're a scientist, on the other side you're somebody who's been in tech for decades, and I think a lot of folks are out there and our listeners potentially may be now in a situation when they have to make a very important decisions in their lives because of all the things that are happening in the tech market right now. And can you share a little bit what was the actual process of making those decisions? I mean, like very practical steps that you took to make that decision and to arrive at a solution. So were you maybe creating some specific spreadsheets, or you had sessions with a mentor, or maybe you use some other specific methodology? What is your process for making a decision?
Yeah, for me, I think like talking it over with someone that I trust is kind of how I come to conclusions on this. For me, my husband, like we've been married for almost 30 years now, and of course, like these decisions impact him as well. So it's good to get the counterpoints, and he's good at playing devil's advocate. So like if I'm super excited about something, he will be like, oh, wait a minute, like maybe we should think about this a little bit differently, maybe this isn't the best thing. Like, so he'll counter me a little bit and then I can, I have to come up with like, here's the evidence that I have that suggests this is the better course of action. So it's kind of a little bit of polite sparring around like what makes sense. And then interestingly as well, like sometimes I'm very nervous about something and I'm like, we should totally not do that. And like, he will basically like drag me out of my comfort zone. So like we tend to balance each other out. Like when one of us gets really excited about something and then the other one is not, like we can have a conversation, like look at the information that we have, like ask the questions that need to be asked and do the research that needs to be done to basically get enough information to make an informed decision. But yeah, I didn't really have like a spreadsheet per se. It was more like what questions do I have to resolve as much uncertainty as it makes sense without like getting lost in an analysis paralysis, because sometimes you can just analyze forever and then not making a decision and getting stuck in that way is a decision in and of itself, right? So that's the general way that I approach it.
Very interesting. I think the 1 foot in, 1 foot out is a very wise is a very wise way to look at it. I think I've talked often about on this podcast about when you make too many changes at the same time, then that's a lot of stress that you're making on yourself. And I was just reflecting on my own career, and I've done it twice. And I think I can feel the pain already. Like I became a mom and joined Google at the same time. I do not recommend that to anybody. I actually switched both the domain and industry when I joined NVIDIA. Google's is a software company and NVIDIA is a hardware company. And from a domain, I'm a business systems person, and I started doing enterprise systems. So it's a very I could quickly apply your recipe to my own trajectory, and I think there's more than just an SRE book coming out of that wisdom in itself. And you said you're somebody who can get things done, so why not?
Yeah, no, why not? Well, I like the one thing that's interesting, like so, and we didn't necessarily plan to take it on this tangent, but I will go there shortly. Like the thing that I love about SRE and like being a program manager is the principles and best practices are so rational, they're so universal and can really be applied to any situation. So I've given a talk internally at Google, and I'm actually going to trial it at the Enterprise Tech Leadership Summit next month in Las Vegas, where it's basically how to SRE anything to work smarter and live better. So giving yourself a framework to apply SRE principles to any domain to deliver, any sort of thing, let's call it the $ thing, and turn it into a well-oiled machine. And I've been thinking a little bit about it as well. Like, I think there's also potentially an opportunity to use it to like where you are the domain and like you are the product that you're trying to build. So I need to explore that a little bit more. But like SRE principles are great life hacks is my TLDR on that.
True, very true. A lot of what the nuggets that you're sharing, they're so repeatable as well, right? Like fix forward, roll back. Those could be first principles in life. All right, I'm gonna take us on to another topic here, which is I love that you hit upon intentionality. And as I was reviewing your work and your profile and some of the choices you've taken, there is so much intention built in. And why this is important is because most of us, we get into the state of flow, right? So it's one thing leads to the other, one job leads to the other, one role leads to the other, one company leads to the other. And we don't take the time to pause and say, what is it that we are prioritizing in this next adventure? And that is where burnouts and feeling like I'm not in control of my career, things are happening to me, the victim mindset, all of that starts to play in. But a very empowering word that I found in just the dialogue we were having right now was the intentionality, and then further the optionality. So let's talk about some of those intentional steps that you've taken in your career. One of them I noticed is that you work 3 days a week, which is a very strong way to live up to your intentionality. Tell us a little bit about how did you arrive at that decision?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because like that's actually a new development as of April this year. I decided like that, there's times that you basically like need to lean into work or like you want to lean into work. And there's times when you want to lean into other things, maybe lean out of the day job a little bit to work on other things. And you need money to live, but like time is our most precious resource. And I just wanted more time to work on my personal projects, my door photography, my travel blog. I do have a couple of books that I have in mind that I want to write. I could have potentially said like, oh, I'm just going to, retire early and just, leave it all behind. But I didn't feel ready for that either. So I decided maybe I could explore a part-time option. And that gives you, again, it's like keeping a foot in the comfort zone. Like I'm still working, I'm just not working as much. So I think that was kind of something that appeals to me. Like just looking for more time to work on other things that I care about. Time is our most important resource.
So tell us about doors. This is it's come up a couple of times. I saw some of your posts. I love each of them. They're so colorful. But how did you get into this? Tell us more.
When we moved to Ireland back in 2010, like I definitely was drawn to the colorful Georgian doors that you see all around the city center, and it just really gives like Dublin a lot of atmosphere. I still have some pictures from that first year in Ireland, but I think my photography has improved a lot. Like those are not pictures that I'm particularly proud of. Over time, I really found myself like gravitating towards doors on the trips we would take as well. And then, the pandemic hit, and like that was really where I went all in. Ireland's Georgian core was within our quarantine radius, and I actually did spend a lot of time on my door photography then. And of course, so when the world opened up again, like I started taking long walks on the trips we were taking, on my business trips too. Get up early, take some pictures, and basically I've got a huge collection of photos from cities all across Europe, especially. And I have to say, like, sometimes I'm lazy when it comes to exercise, but like nothing will motivate me quicker to actually sprint up a hill than like catching a glimpse of a pretty door at the top. I don't know. Just again, it was this sort of gradual path, and now I am basically obsessed. But and again, like I moved to Portugal in 2022, and my love of doors definitely continues to grow here. As I'm sure Igor can confirm, like the doors that you see that are framed by like beautiful Portuguese tiles, that azulejos, like they're some of the most beautiful ones in the world. And like as I said, like I feel like I call door photography, my weird hobby, and it has become a bit of an obsession. If I'm honest, like I post 3 pictures of doors to Instagram every day. I run and moderate a 15,000 member subreddit dedicated to doors. There's like 2,000 door photos in my backlog. Like and I even like last year, I even thought it'd be fun to start a second website dedicated to doors. Like I have my travel blog. I've been doing that for over a decade, but I thought, why not? And, as an added benefit, this really gave me a practical reason to learn WordPress. My travel blog, Sidewalk Safari, is hosted on Google Blogger. Got to eat our own dog food. I've been at Google for 18 years, but WordPress has some design advantages that I really wanted to explore. And I post to Instagram, Door of the Week challenge that you've seen on LinkedIn. I don't know, like I think it boils down to like I use my scientific brain at work a lot, and it's nice to have this outlet to use my creative brain, my artistic brain, and the door photography really like scratches that itch for me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I would really love to dive deeper in that topic. So you visited 63 countries, and I think most of us, we do love travel, but you took it to a completely different level. And I remember when we met, we had a little conversation, and you told me a little bit about your first travel. I think that first time when we do something new and then become passionate about it is a really special moment. Can you tell us a little bit more about your very first and what you felt and how you organized it?
Yeah, no, happy to talk about that. There's 2 things I could talk, well, 3 things I could talk your ear about out talk your ear off about all day. So SRE, travel, and doors. So let's talk a little bit about the travel side of things. So for me and like my husband as well, the travel bug bit for us a little later than it does for a lot of people. So I'm from the US originally, but now I've been living in Europe for 15 years, but I did not have a passport until I was 25 years old. And that said, of course, I have made up for lost time. And I remember our first international trip outside of North America. Like we did a week in London and Paris, and I was like, the culture, the food, the history, like everything was fabulous. And after that first experience, we were really hooked, I would say, and started making more of a conscious effort to prioritize travel, and especially international travel. So we do that during our vacation time. I also try as hard as I can to squeeze trips into my busy work life. And in that regard as well, there's a couple things that I found to be helpful that the audience may be interested in. And I would say like the first is leisure travel. So if you think about like you've got a business trip and you add some leisure to it, like that is leisure. So if I have a business trip, like I try to make the most of it. I get up early to take a walk. I do something fun before work. I always say yes to those dinner invitations with my colleagues. And, depending on the destination, like I will often add on a weekend at my own expense. Like it's a great way to get an efficient and subsidized vacation, actually. And I was gonna add as well, like, so we've come a long way since that initial like trip to London and Paris. And again, my guiding star led me to Google and led us to that international assignment in Ireland. And I would say living abroad has also really supercharged our life with travel. So if you think about it, like in the US, you can sit on a plane for more than 6 hours and you're still in the same country. And like, of course, there's regional differences in different parts of the US, but it's still the same country, and it's not that different, let's say. And in Europe, like in just a couple of hours, you can basically be in a completely different country. You can immerse yourself in a completely different culture. And I remember that first year we moved to Ireland in 2010, 2011. And my husband and I, like we took 23 overnight trips. We'd often like get up at the crack of dawn, or like, you wake up at 3 a.m., you get to the airport, you hop on a Ryanair flight, and then, go somewhere cool and then come back on Sunday evening. Don't even have to use the vacation days. Great way to just really dive into those travel experiences.
It's amazing. No, and it's also, it goes back to that intentionality that we were hitting upon, right? It's your North Star, it's your guiding star, and you live with it. You live with it single day. That's beautiful. I have to ask this. We're gonna get to the tapering end of the episode. Jennifer, what's the secret of your energy?
The secret of my energy. Good question. I think it's like, surround yourself by really interesting people that challenge you, but that are fun to work with. And then again, don't compromise on what you want to get out of life. Like, I don't know, like, I'm always doing things that I enjoy. And, if it's not serving, I, I set it down. But yeah, so I think that's sort of at a, holistic level. A lot of coffee also helps. Like, I do love coffee, so that could be contributing as well. This will scare you, but this tends to be my lower energy time of day. So I'm a morning person. I'm actually a morning person. So I tend to get the like, okay, now I'm tired in the late afternoon. Now I got to get a snack and take a break.
That's amazing. This is a perspective, the way you've lived your life and shaped your career is such a breath of fresh air in a world where we have so many stories of strange things happening to people's careers and them feeling not in control. I think your story will hit home with a lot of people who maybe they have that opportunity to build intentionality into their next climb or the next adventure. And I hope that more of us think about life choices in the way you have and deliberately plan that career to live your values to the fullest. So thank you for sharing that perspective. Before we tune out, what tips, tricks, books, podcasts do you have that you would like to share with our users?
Sure. No, I just was thinking about this because, like, the one thing about that people should know about me, I am a reflector rather than an on the spot person. So, like, thank you all for basically giving me a heads up that you were going to ask this question, so I could come prepared with something to actually say. The one book that immediately came to my mind was a book called Wild Courage. It's a book that came out this year, written by my former Google colleague, Jenny Wood. I found it really is an outstanding read. And it's a career focused book, and it talks about strategies for getting what you want in your career and in your life too. Like, even if you're pursuing a non-traditional career, or you don't have enough like a formal career or what have you, like it's got some great techniques for decision making and basically being able to take that step out of the comfort zone, so to speak. And I know when I read Jenny's book, I found myself really nodding along throughout. And if you want to get a sense for the kind of thing that she covers, like she talks about basically how she chased her future husband, like at the time a complete stranger, basically off of a train in the subway in New York, and like now they're married with 2 kids. So like that certainly took wild courage, but wild courage leads to wild success in some cases. So check that one out. The other thing I was going to say is, like, I've been trying to publish more on like the techniques that I've used throughout my career to really follow that guiding star, to travel as much as possible, to live in different places. I'm in the process of revamping my travel blog, Sidewalk Safari, to be more explicitly focused on what I call, part-time travel. So making the most of that opportunity that you have when you have a day job. A day job doesn't have to be constraining. It can really open the world, as I've discovered. So if this resonates with you, I hope you'll check out travel.sidewalksafari.com. And the other thing I would say, like, I am in the process of building up another site. Like, I've got 3 websites now. Now you can see why I needed to go to a part-time schedule at my day job. But I have a website called The Reliable PGM. So that focuses on my professional expertise at the intersection of program management and SRE. So some of the stuff we talked about on like how to SRE anything, or how SRE principles and best practices turn into great life hacks, are what I plan to put there. There's some there's not a ton of content up there now, but there's a couple of articles and just sort of the general philosophy, and more of my general career advice is going to end up there. So coming soon as time allows. Those are 3 things that I would recommend.
Perfect. Perfect. Great resources, and it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your principles, for letting us dive into the values you live by and the methodology you use to make a decision to build your life about the things around the things you love and to follow your passion for travel. And you have a very interesting hobby, and I think we have so much to learn from you in terms of how to be intentional with what we actually want to do in our lives. So it was an absolutely beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we will add all the resources to podcast notes. And if people listening want to follow and learn more from you, they can use that information to find you online.
Thanks very much. Really appreciated the opportunity to be here to talk about my favorite things. Like I said, I could go on for hours. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.